And so we are going to review modules 7, 8, and 9. Dr. Bond is going to go first and review instructional methods, and then Dr. Marie with mentorship. Dr. Bond and Dr. Marie, tell me when to click ahead if you need me to.
Okay. So just a very brief reminder of problem-based learning discussions. It's one of the instructional methodologies that we covered. What, in 1 minute, if I have to say, what is it about? The key aspect of it is problem first and concept second. And you want to make sure that your students work to solve the problem, and as they are working to solve a problem, that's how they uncover concepts. It is helpful because it motivates students, it helps them focus, and engages the students better in their learning. And studies have shown that it gives better knowledge retention and application. You click next. So as someone who's going to prepare problem-based discussion, do remember that you need to have clear objectives. As you're creating your case, remember to have it unfold from open-ended questions to more directed questions so that you can guide your students through the course. And then at the end of the session, you want to provide them discussions or with the answers so that they know what the take-home message will be. And then we also covered how to lead and how to troubleshoot. As someone who's leading the case-based discussion, remember that your goal is to facilitate and not to be the lecturer. So hopefully you'll speak less and listen more and have your trainees engage. We mentioned about open-ended and leading questions. You want to create an environment that's not intimidating to allow for your students to stay focused. And then as a leader of a PBLD, it's your job to keep the discussions on track to ensure that your objectives are met by the end of your session. So that's what I have. A quick 1 minute overview of problem-based learning discussion. So another instructional methodology we talked about was the flipped classroom model. And this picture gives us a very clear idea of what it's about. Traditionally, people have lectures first, and then we'll go do homework. But a flipped classroom model provides initial reading material or video lectures so that the students can do the pre-work so that you can use your classroom time for doing exercises, projects, and case-based discussions. And this format allows you to cover more advanced topics and use your time more effectively. Next slide. The advantages of using flipped classroom model are it allows the students to practice at his or her own pace. It allows them to review the lectures multiple times. Again, as mentioned earlier, it gives you better use of class time to cover higher concepts, to use applications and so forth. This format allows for social interaction among students, which usually helps in learning. It does have disadvantages. It requires a lot more work from the educators. And if both the students and the learners and the educators don't understand how the model works, it will not be effective. If students come unprepared to the classroom, then it will be harder to cover advanced topics during the classroom. And then in low resource centers, not having access to equipment and technology, free internet access, inability to share videos and so forth could make it difficult to use a flipped classroom model. All right, that's what I have.
So as we know from our own experiences and also from this training, we as teachers assume many diverse roles. I think Elizabeth's presentation highlighted that. We're leaders and we're also managers. And mentoring is one of the vital roles that we play as teachers. So it is one that we defined in this program through the academic context, but as we know, we play a leadership, a mentorship role in lots of different contexts. Next. So as a teacher, you are constantly taking on a variety of roles. So you're guiding, you're promoting, you're coaching, you're supporting your students and mentees. And you might play all of these roles at the same time or one at a unique time. You may not play any, but others may play these roles depending on the area and the kind of skill set that your mentees are hoping to gain. Next, so there are many benefits that have been identified in the literature, and these were some of the ones that we discussed in the session on mentorship. But next, there are also challenges, right? So we discussed that many of the challenges include a lack of training, a lack of time, a lack of confidence or experience, financial rewards, even our own identity as faculty. Next. So one of the ways that we can think about how we can be more effective in our own mentoring is to think first and foremost about assessing our own practice, both as mentees ourselves and as mentors. And this was one of the models that we discussed with 10 domains in which you could really reflect on your own mentorship with different trainees as examples and think about the ways that you could really build and enhance your own skills in mentoring. Next slide. So that self-assessment is one way to think about your own practice and also utilizing frameworks and models to enhance mentoring. One of the ones that we discussed was the social cognitive career theory. And this was an example of how you can imagine where your mentorship can really influence and most effectively influence your trainees. And that's really in two specific areas: self-efficacy, so your mentees feeling that they can actually perform and do the task, and outcome expectations, where the outcomes will be beneficial for them. And so thinking about your role as a mentor being one where you can positively impact how your mentees think about their own capabilities and what the outcomes will be. Next. So we can utilize some of the literature in identifying best practices, recognizing that there is a lot of opportunity in this field to grow the literature, but from what we know anecdotally and what studies have showed us, that communicating effectively, being clear about your expectations from the beginning, promoting the development of your mentees, so introducing them to networks, to conferences, to opportunities, fostering independence for them. So thinking about how you're setting them up to continue to grow their own mentorship skills, leadership skills, and abilities in a clinical environment. Addressing issues of diversity, recognizing that we are complex individuals and we may come to mentoring relationships with different backgrounds, different characteristics, and recognizing that in the mentoring relationship is crucial. And as I mentioned, really this idea of aligning expectations and using some frameworks and models to do so. Next, one of those that we introduced in this module was a GROW framework. So thinking about how you could guide discussions with your mentees around identifying goals, identifying the context, identifying challenges, and thinking about strategies to overcome those challenges. Next. So for you in your roles in Ethiopia, depending on your different institution, considering different types of mentoring recommendations that you might make for your mentees. Types of mentoring functions, whether you're providing primarily psychosocial support or institutional support, thinking about multiple mentors and mentoring teams as effective ways to triangulate and gather diverse expertise to bring together to really advance the personal and professional development of your mentees. So that is a 2-slide overview, and it was really great to walk through those with you. So I will pass along the presentation back to Bon or Elizabeth.
I'll briefly mention that last time when we talked about leadership, we talked about social and emotional intelligence, which includes awareness and management of yourself and others. And through that, we looked at some different models to become more aware of who we are and who others are. And then we talked about managing ourselves, so being a proactive person and then really looking at time management.